Well, what a way to wake up on a Friday morning to find out that the franchise player signs a 3-year, $169 billion extension to remain with the Philadelphia 76ers. On this show that we have for you, presented, this emergency pod is brought to you by Indeed. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. That's Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Well, Joel Embiid didn't necessarily need to be hired, but he needed to be re-signed, and the Philadelphia 76ers and their franchise player have agreed on a 3-year extension for $192 million. And Derek, if I am correct, that's around $515 million for his career earnings. Not too bad for the big fella, man. Good morning.
Well, it's not too bad. And you're correct. It takes him over $500 million in career earnings. He is the 5th NBA player to surpass that. Don't have the full list off the top of my head. KD, Steph, LeBron, get the 4th one. Doesn't matter. It's not the point of the show. But for a player who came, from Cameroon when he was 15, who started his career off with 2 surgeries on his foot, this was anything but a foregone conclusion. And to get to the point where he is at, it took a little bit of luck and a lot of work. And it's honestly a really good day. I know some people will probably see some of those numbers, and we'll get into it, and be nervous. But here you have a player who has developed into a franchise player, an MVP caliber player, who has decided he wants to be in Philadelphia for the rest of his physical prime, hopefully the rest of his career, and who now for the first time in his career has a chance to, form some real long-term chemistry with 2 co-stars and form a real core that should be here for the foreseeable future. Hopefully the next half decade. They have all of Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey locked up for the next 4 seasons. So it is, look, we can get into some of the concerns. I know fans always have them, but it's just nice to finally have the kind of consistency around Joel Embiid that I think can lead to winning. And it's just nice to have a superstar choose to be here for the rest of his career. Obviously, he's been given a lot of money to make that choice, but you read that statement that he released, which we have some of it in the description of this show, and I will pull it up and we can read the rest of it. But I think that's really earnest. And as much as we can, wonder how well his body will hold up, whether or not this core can really win a title, to have a player who has become so ingrained in the Philadelphia community and really wants to make his home here, I think that's nice for a lot of fans, and it should be. It's a real, it's a real win for the city.
Yeah, and I'll start there, man, because for so many years, it's always not necessarily here. It's more national people that would jump in and say, hey, watch out for that Philadelphia situation because the 76ers continue to lose. They keep getting knocked out in the second round. And when
every year, his former
frustrated?
Agent runs the New York Knicks. Who cares?
Right.
Nobody actually likes their agent. It was always a talking point of when is Joel Embiid going to leave?
When is he going to want to leave? Yes. And when is he going to? Yep.
On the one hand, I get it because that's the nature of the NBA. And here you have a player who has sort of bucked that trend. A lot of players, when things don't go their way and they have to rebuild or they have to go through some tough seasons or they face scrutiny, they tuck their tail between their legs and they try to go to the rosier situation. And I don't usually begrudge the players because that is the way that superstars move in the NBA today. The salary cap has sort of made it that way. But it is refreshing to have a player who has gone through everything that he has gone through. And we don't have to sit here and go through all of the weird stuff that has happened during his tenure. But there's been a lot that's gone on, a lot of mistakes that have been made. And yet he's sitting here and saying, I want to finish this out in Philadelphia. I want to sit here and compete for these fans. I want to, give back to the franchise that took a chance on me. And it is just nice to see. It is huge.
It is, man, because we would hear it all the time. Yes, because Leon Rose runs the New York Knicks, his former agent. Oh, he has eyes for the Big Apple. He has eyes for the New York. And because he is very familiar with Leon Rose, then that's going to be his ultimate destination getting out of here. And where does that leave the 76ers? Well, we don't have to worry about that at least for a few more years, because with this contract extension, with this team that's being put together, and I know you're going to read the statement here in just a second, but the fact that number one, it's the money, of course, that stuff plays into it, but it also is because he does like the city. And secondly, as good as Paul George is, and we hope to see him be as things continue to go on, once we get an opportunity to see him on the floor with Embiid and Maxey, Derek, I have to believe too that Tyrese Maxey made this decision a little bit easier with the way that he has played, with the way that he has stepped up in that role as that number 2. And Joel Embiid trusts, as we've talked about over the course of this summer, trusts Tyrese Maxey to be that guy and makes things so much easier for him out there on the floor. And most certainly with this extension, knowing that going forward, he at least has a co-star at a young age to help him in his later years of his career and making things, that much better for him, that much easier for him as things start to go in the other direction for Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrese Maxey is so crucial to everything that has happened over the last couple of years. And the reason that there is new life with the franchise and in the Embiid era, everything from just the fact that it makes it easier for Joel Embiid to want to sign an extension. And maybe Joel Embiid would have still wanted to stick around. Maybe he's just so tied to the city that he would have stuck around. But it certainly makes there is a contention window now in large part because Tyrese Maxey developed into who he is. And also, like we talked about a couple of days or weeks ago, I forget, time kind of blends together, but just the fact that Tyrese Maxey didn't demand that extension last summer, and now Paul George is here, and you have a big 3, and you have not only a chance for Joel Embiid to stay home, but also a chance for him to compete. I'm sure that makes, like I said, that decision a heck of a lot easier. Tyrese Maxey has completely changed the course of the franchise.
Yeah,
and Mike Muscala,
totally
you always got to shout out Mike Muscala when you have a chance.
All right, so I'm seeing already that it needs a statue for Joel Embiid. I saw that one in there. And if that's the case, at what point do you hang that? Shivani G says Embiid statue in front of the new stadium for sure. Iverson, Joel Embiid, definitely get. They will both have statues at the new arena in Center City. The question is, do you hang a Mike Muscala jersey in the new arena also with the championship banner?
I mean, I would, but I am very committed to every bit that I can be committed to. So I'm not sure if the I feel like the Sixers trying to explain that to fans who are only casual fans would be maybe tough, but I would fully embrace it. Fully.
Hey, man, we explained a lot of other different things too. So, hey, this is nothing. All right. Can we get to the some of the words that Joel Embiid put out in the statement and after regarding his re-signing here with the Philadelphia 76ers?
Yeah. And this was a press release released by the Sixers. He said through the press release, "I started a Sixer and want to be here for the rest of my career. I had no idea when I was drafted as a 20-year-old kid from Cameroon how lucky I was to be in Philadelphia." Then went on to say, "Through all the ups and downs, the city and the fans have been everything, and I'm so grateful for how they've embraced me. I want to thank Josh, David, and the entire organization. Philadelphia is home, and it's time to bring this community an NBA championship."
So, well, let's hope he follows up on that because Joel Embiid is taking a lot of heat in this city. He's going through a lot of different public personality things too, because in the beginning we know he was having fun. He was very demonstrative and very emotional out there on the floor, showing different things. And as we know, against the Toronto Raptors, busting out the airplane after a windmill dunk in the half court set, and all the stuff that he would do. Now he'll do the chop now every now and again, or what is it? What is the X thing that he does? He does. He'll do that. He'll do a few other things, but he's changed a little bit. Some good for in terms of fans, how they like to see him out there. Some not so good, because I thought, Derek, and I would say this pretty early on, and I've since changed a little bit because he has gotten so good. This stuff doesn't matter. But remember, he used to smile all the time on the floor. It was somewhat like Carmelo Anthony early on, and then it just changed. He stopped doing it. And part of it was because of the criticism that he would take because of not being healthy, not performing in the postseason, things of that nature. And it was warranted. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply pointing out how things have gone over the course of his career since he's been here. Think about it, from 2014 is when he was drafted, and he has since been here in Philadelphia. So with that, we've seen a lot of different things as far as Joel Embiid's personality. And for him to say that in that statement, knowing that he's taken a lot of heat, a lot of backlash for many different things, most importantly, not performing in the postseason, and he continues to, he says it, now he has to follow up on it, continues to point out how this team and this organization needs to win a championship, and he understands that it relies heavily on his shoulder. So now he again says this, signs this, the contract is done, everything is put together with the team. He has to go out there, as we've been talking about all summer with the PHLY family that we have here and so many others, and go out there, perform, execute, and bring this championship to Philadelphia. There are no more excuses. The money is there. It's no longer that being anything a part of the reason. Is he going anywhere? He is not. He has a supporting cast with Maxey, with George, with everyone else on this roster. And things could also change during the season. As you mentioned, Kyle mentioned, where a trade deadline could be very important. Also, to bring in another reinforcement to help him out. They've done everything to help him out. Now he has to finally go and do it.
Yeah. And look, like I said, I think a lot of people will look at it and see some of the big dollars. You're talking $65 to $70 million towards the tail end of it when he'll be 34.
That's a lot of cash,
35
man.
years old. That's a lot of cash. I will say that I think maybe some people don't realize how much salary cap is expected to rise over that span. Like we're talking about a $206 million salary cap by the end of it. Basketball players in general are going to be very, very expensive in future seasons. That's because the league is doing well. So you're still talking about. I actually think it goes down. It starts at 35% of the salary cap. I think it goes down to like 32 or 33% because the cap is going to rise higher than his salary will. Still, you're talking about an older player. You're talking about Paul George will be 38 years old at that time. I understand. Frankly, just winning a championship is hard in the NBA. There's certainly no guarantees. We're not going to sit here and say this positions the Sixers to, guarantee a title. But it is just so nice. And you're right. A lot of, Joel Embiid faces a lot for someone who's been an MVP caliber player for 3 or 4 years now. He faces a lot of criticism because they haven't broken through in the playoffs. And a lot of that does stem back to the fact that he has not been his regular season self in the postseason, especially in the second round of the playoffs. But there's still a romantic side to this, where it gives him a chance to rewrite the narrative throughout the rest of his career. And if he ends up pulling it off and winning a title, or at least getting close, a lot of the angst and concern and the criticisms will turn into some of the adulation that I think he deserves. Like I said, it is a very edge case scenario where a player who just started playing basketball at 14, 15 years old, who broke his foot twice to start his career, has developed into one of the 2 or 3 best players in the world. This was an extremely unlikely thing to happen. I think, like I said, it happened a lot because of a little bit of luck and a whole lot of work. And if he has a chance to go out here and prove himself and win at levels that he admittedly hasn't yet, it will completely rewrite the narrative. And I would like for Philadelphia to be able to embrace a player who has meant so much to the franchise, who has been one of the best players in franchise history. It would just be nice to be able to celebrate him without any qualifications to that. And now with this contract in the next 5 years, he has a chance to do that.
So some of the numbers that you talked about remaining on his contract, Derek, 24-25, he's at $51.4 million. For the 25-26 season, it jumps to $55.2 million. And the player option that he had in 26-27 is now declined at $59 million. 27-28, $64 million, and 28-29, that's at $69 million. That, though, Derek, at 28-29 is in fact a player option.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money there. And as you pointed out, $515 million in total for career earnings. So, hey, man, not too bad for you, young kid from Cameroon, as he said. And to make this kind of money, to be the face of the franchise, and to, as you just pointed out, I have an opportunity once again in year number 10, try to capture that elusive championship, bring it to Philadelphia, where, as we know, starving for a professional basketball championship here in town. And it's going to be on the shoulders of him and everyone else around him. But again, the fingers pointed directly at him of getting this done, because even as he gets older and Tyrese Maxey may step up and Paul George is here, we know what it's really going to be about should they finally break through and win that title. It's going to be about him. And as you said, celebrating the career and everything about him, because there has been a lot of things, and it makes you think about and try to just recall the first game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The fact that when he wasn't playing, he gets sent home because he's getting into a dispute, an altercation, if you will, with the staffer in Utah as they're on the road trip against the Utah Jazz. So many things just come up and pop up, and you remember about his career. Think about the 70 points this past season against Victor Wembanyama, and so many other big games, the 59 against the Utah Jazz the season before. a lot of accomplishments, but not the one that he really wants. 7-time All-Star, making the All NBA team so many times, 1-time MVP, being in the final two for that award for 3 consecutive seasons. The resume is there. It's that one thing that's missing. Is he good enough? Yes, to do it, he has to show it. We can talk about how great his numbers are. We can discuss all the accolades that are there individually for this particular player. But the one thing that is missing, that is going to be a stain on him, of course, because unfortunately for these great players, from Karl Malone to Charles Barkley to so many others, you are judged also by the championships that you have won or not. He has not done it. He has not gotten past that second round. He needs to get to that third round, and hopefully that fourth for him, the franchise, the fan base, to get to that championship level and see if they can pull it off. And it's all going to start and end with him. And we'll see if he can do that this season. Well, any last words for you, man, before we check back in with the people at 3:00?
Yeah, good point. We will be back on the air at 3:00. We'll even bring Kyle Neubeck here. I don't want to blow up his spot, but we just could not wake him up for this one.
We'll bring an extra person with us.
Kyle is not a morning person, so we tried our best and delayed the show as long as we could, but we are here now. No, I mean, it is. I think this was sort of a foregone conclusion. You know, you thought once Joel came back.
And just to be clear, Derek has been talking about this for weeks when is this going to happen? It just happened a week and a half before media day and training camp starts.
Yeah, and you thought when Joel got back from the Olympics and traveling and taking some time off to spend with his family, this would get ironed out. It was a lot of money for him to turn down. Theoretically, he could have gotten a little bit more if he waited until next summer to the extension, but that would be a pretty big risk, and it's nice just to get him locked in at this point. So it is, like I said, I know a lot of people are going to look at some of the numbers and wonder whether or not you should be paying that for a big man. It is just like you have a window now to really go out there and compete for a title. Joel Embiid is your best path to that. And just as a fan and somebody like who wants to root for the team, seeing a franchise level player, a superstar, spend his entire career in Philadelphia, I think there's something really incredible about that. It's not something that happens all the time in this league. Obviously, he could still end up elsewhere, depending on how things go. Sure. But this is a huge commitment from him. I believe him every time he says that he wants to spend the rest of his career in Philadelphia. And I hope that they're able to bring that championship home so that the fans, like I said, so that he can be appreciated for the development he has made and for the player he has become without any of the qualifications that come up every time fans discussion. He has become one of the greatest players in franchise history. Hopefully the postseason success follows that. And I do think having Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George locked in for four years, all three of them, gives them a chance to do that.
Timing was just right before training camp to get started. The big fella locks in. Joel Embiid, 3 years, $192 million on his extension to remain with the Philadelphia 76ers through 2028. And as people have pointed out in the chat, Derek, that is not long enough to open up the new arena in Center City. They're going to have to correct that to make sure that he is there to start off the new building, not just for the statue. 35
at the time.
Yeah,
so
that's not bad.
Another 3-year deal, take him for his 38th season.
Absolutely. So we want to let everybody know that this emergency podcast is brought to you by Indeed. And again, listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. That's Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Well, Joel Embiid is not to be rehired. He got that done. It's now, again, up to the rest of the supporting cast along with him, the front office. Maybe Daryl Morey and Elton Brand need to rehire or hire someone else as the season goes along. We'll talk about that as this season goes along. We'll talk more about this at 3 p.m. with Kyle Neubeck. And for Derek Bodner, Brenna, who steps in for Bree this morning. We appreciate Brenna for helping us out this morning for this emergency podcast. And we appreciate you waking up with us. If you did find out the news through this podcast, through our tweets that we put out there, we appreciate you starting your morning off, stepping away from work a little bit, missing that meeting for the first 15 minutes to hang out with Derek, Brenna, and myself talking about Joel Embiid's extension. We'll be back at 3 p.m. for our normal start time right here on the PHLY Sixers Podcast. See ya.